the key, I think, to having an amicable divorce is to manage communication, or to manage the communication process, particularly if you have children. And to get there, you need cooperation. If you want to get what you want out of your divorce, as I've said repeatedly on other episodes, your natural ally is your ex.
Right.
Because that, of all the people that are involved in your divorce, the lawyers and the experts and the judge and the family court services recommending counselor, the parties are the ones whose interests are the most aligned.
When one person is talking, the other person is going through all the rebuttals to what they're saying in their mind.
Right.
And they keep trying to jump in and rebut the other person as soon as it's said. And, they don't let you do that in court. You have to take turns. And so that's one of the things we try to do in mediation is we try to stop that behavior and have the parties take turns.
Right.
But
I tell everybody to make a list. So keep a legal pad on your desk and make a list.
Right. And one of the things that you have to do is kind of trust the process when you're going through this. And that's true whether it's court or mediation. I mean, I find that the court will, sort through it and get to the bottom of what's going on most of the time. And like Thomas has said before, the amount of times that the judicial officers get things correct just never ceases to amaze me, because how they make those decisions based on so little information sometimes is unbelievable. But when you're in mediation in particular, the way to get the most benefit out of it is if you can stop and actually think about what they're saying, and not from the perspective of, oh, well, that's not true. Obviously, it's not true for you, but it's obviously true for them, or they wouldn't be saying it.
Yeah.
And if you can listen to them, you can start hearing what their concerns are, what they're afraid of, what they're upset about. And when you can start getting that context into your head, you start knowing where your points of settlement are.
Here's the argumentative style of communication. And I see this in a lot of people. I mean, this is kind of natural, but it's based on an illusion. And the illusion is this, that if you don't disagree with something, you're affirming that it's true. And so the person who's under this illusion is, in their mind, they're parsing the words of their significant other, or their husband or their wife, and they're thinking, oh, I can't let him say that. I can't let him away with saying that, because if I do, he'll think that it's true. The way you see things is colored by your bias. And in a divorce situation, a divorcing person is probably the most person in the world who is ready to believe the worst about the other party. But the fact is that most divorcing people, I mean, there are people who engage in criminal behavior and domestic violence. And yeah, sometimes there's bad people who deserve bad results and should probably go to jail. But for the most part, I would say 98% of the time, they're two decent people that can't make their marriage work for whatever reason.
Right.
It could be an affair, it could be finances, it could be child rearing, and so these are decent people,
right,
that have a disagreement. And so many couples, it's kind of like they have to, I have to say that I'm a very good father. I spent a lot of time, and the other party.
That's not true.
That's not true. Yeah, what about last weekend when you left them at the beach? And
what about how you traveled 10 days out of the month? And
like that.
Yeah,
like that. Because they can't let that impression go unrebutted.
Right.
And that's communication style.
Right.
And it's a destructive one because it says to the other person, you're incredible, you're not to be believed. The statement depends on your point of view.
Right.
I'm sure that this father, that this hypothetical father that we're talking about, sees himself as a good dad.
Right.
So when you attack that, you're attacking kind of his self-image.
Right.
And what do people do when their self-image is attacked?
Right. They get defensive.
They become defensive. And, when you have that situation where somebody argues with everything you say, after a while, you feel like you're fighting for your life.
Yeah, you're exhausted.
Right.
Just because they say it doesn't make it true.
Right.
And honestly, nothing's going to happen any different if you rebut it or you don't respond at all. Because usually somebody who is arguing with you like that is not going to they're not suddenly going to go, oh, gee, that's a great argument. I've suddenly discovered you're right.
Right.
I mean, that's not going to be the outcome of it.
So what are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to win an argument in mediation? Not really. I mean, what we're trying to do is gain the other party's cooperation. Why? Because they're our natural ally.
Because that'll make this be over.
Hey, it'll be over.
It will stop costing you money. Because the stress will be done.
Right.
I mean, I can go on and on with a list of why you want their cooperation.
Right. So it doesn't help to make them feel like they're fighting for their life. It just doesn't work towards that goal. A lot of times, if you express curiosity about what the person said, then you're going to open up the conversation and you're going to learn information that will help you come to agreement. You're going to learn what that interest is. You're going to learn what that fear is. Sometimes the question is, well, how would that make you feel? How would you feel if ... That kind of opens them up to be able to talk about how they feel. To tell you the truth, I'm 5 years away from retirement, and I'm just not sure I can make it.
Right.
That's a reasonable. That's a reasonable fear.
Right.
But if you discount it, with some argumentative comment, you're never going to get there.
Right.
And there's a solution to that problem.
Right.
And the curiosity involves asking that question about how the other person feels and what their agenda is and what their interests are.
Right.
And that's how to end the argument that never ends.
This is the argument that never ends.
Instead of a rebuttal, you ask a question, especially if you need further information, you ask a question. And the question allows the person to give you the information you need to make a decision.
Right.
And so if you're always trying to rebut, then you never get there.
Right.
So you want to ask questions that are open-ended.
Right. Defensiveness gives you less information, and defensiveness usually causes the other person to react with defensiveness, and that's how we get on the argument that never ends.
Right.
It's because everybody is just defending their position instead of anybody actually trying to hear what the other person's concerns are.
Right. And then when you reach the brainstorming phase, a lot of people, when they're trying to think of solutions, the other person, again, jumps in with a rebuttal or an argument. Oh, that won't work because.
I'm bad for that.
Yeah. So when you're brainstorming, when you're trying to think of solutions, there's no stupid answer.
Everything comes back to communication. If you are arguing over the parenting, if you're arguing over finances, even if somebody has an affair, ultimately my ex-husband had an affair, but that affair was born out of the issues in our relationship. And the issues in our relationship very much revolved around communication.
Right.
So
to stop the argument that never ends, you want to try to suppress that urge to rebut, to always rebut, and instead adopt a curiosity stance and ask questions that allow the other person to A, feel heard, and B, feel like they're free to talk about what what it is that's really bothering them.
Right.
And if you do that, you'll be able to get to solutions a lot faster because you'll have more information.
Right. Right. Very, very good.
We'll grow in number, few